right, this will be really short and really sweet because I had a perfect lesson and we changed nothing. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding entirely. So my lesson was on permutations and combinations. I had started the set by doing a recap of factorials. So I gave them a definition and then a few examples that they had to work through. Yep. Now can I actually move this? Excellent. So we would see the 5 factorial. I'd have them tell me what it equaled. We get an answer, go through the other 2. Okay, so the way we changed it. Go ahead, Keelan, take it away. Yeah.
So we thought that instead of like explaining what factorials were and giving the answers to the students, we're going to get them to tell us. So we give them this and see if they could tell us, that's a factorial and give us the answer kind of thing. And the same thing with several examples, and then the same thing with this representation for factorial. Just so then they're showing us that they understand it versus us telling them what they already learned.
Pull it out of their brains instead of ours.
Yeah.
All right, so we went on to the development. My first question was about a race up the stairs, and how many different ways could they finish. So when I went through the slide, we wrote down all the different ways, and then filled in our dashes. But to change it up, and to improve it,
so we found that these 3 slots here kind of gave it away. It's not going to be addition if there's no plus sign. We kind of know that, so it gives away what operation is used, where we want them to be able to figure that out. And here we're showing that it's going to be 3 choices multiplied to get the answer. So instead, we decided we'd get rid of that and have them come up with that. So based on how many different options there would be, they will have to figure out that there's going to be 3 slots they need to fill, whether they're going to add, subtract, whatever the operation may be, and then how many different ways to get their answer. Instead of us just, it's kind of a fill in the blanks, it's spoon feeding as maybe we kind of realize. So just have them make those connections more on their own.
We also had 2 questions on the slide previously, and then we decided to take them out so that the students wouldn't be jumping ahead to those questions and instead of focusing on like making the answer and doing the process. So we'd have those questions in our teacher notes and we'd ask them while doing the question instead.
All right, so we had one permutation question. We stuck in another one instead of just jumping right into combinations. So the second, so we would have changed it to 20 people who work in an office together. 4 of these are selected to go to the same conference together. How many such selections? So again, this time we would actually take, just like the other example, have the students work through it, find out how many solutions, make sure that they get them all.
And we did this because originally it was one permutation question and then straight to combination questions, and we thought this would allow the students to understand more what permutations are before we moved on to the next.
Instead of jumping back and forth to
To see the pattern a little bit
more clearly.
Yeah. All right, and then we moved on to a combination question about the last day of classes and going out for breakfast, which apparently we're going to do. I hope so still. So I had given them, again, the 3 slots and the 2 questions. So the way we changed this one,
So
Go ahead.
similarly as the slide before, in the other example, we eliminated the 3 fill in the blank answer question space key thing. So it would give away like the process and how they would answer the question. So we eliminated those, and we also eliminated the 2 questions that were also there in red. Once again, keeping them in our teacher notes so we could ask them instead of them trying to figure it out before completing the question.
all right, so next up we had a second combination question about a lock and finding a birthday present that was hidden in a cupboard. This is a true story, okay, it's happened to me. So it is relevant to me anyways. I can't remember what we changed on this one.
This is the original, and then the same thing again.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah.
took out the.
So we took out these parts of the next one. Yeah. I was spoon feeding too much, and we realized in the lesson study that we certainly don't need to at this point.
And at this like it would help us as teachers to realize where they are at their learning in the material and stuff, so we could pay more attention to more examples or continue on faster with the material if they understood it well enough.
All right, so here we had two definitions. Combination, a collection of things in which the order blank either matters or doesn't matter. And then we had an example of fruit salad. So we had a student, I don't remember who it was, come up and slide these into place. And they actually stayed together this time. Right on. Okay.
So the way we changed this is we covered up combinations and permutations so that we could discuss them after, because we realized that before we want them to look at the example and figure out, which one order matters, which one doesn't matter, and then we'll tell them, this is a combination, this is a permutation, rather than seeing it beforehand. Yeah. And we also moved the matters and doesn't matter, so that's not quite as obvious, where they should go. That way it's more in the middle and students can pick.
Yeah. Okay, for this one, we changed it up a little bit. This was my original slide. We ended up taking this question and turning it into our second permutation slide. So this was just for the students to figure out if it was a permutation or combination. And then the answer would be under the star.
So yeah, we just adjusted that question, and
We really like this slide, we just reworded the questions.
A little bit, yeah. Okay, in my original presentation, I had, bam, here's the equations and how you work them out, and as well what each of the variables represent.
And we decided that this was too much to cover in the period of time that we had, so we actually took out this part and decided we would do this in the next lesson rather than in the lesson we were in. That way it gave students more time to understand
The process.
the basics before we moved on to.
All right, and then I had a slide about registering for fall classes. Now this is, lost my train of thought. Something that the students would relate to and something that they would have to go through.
We thought it was a really good slide, but we realized that we probably couldn't fit it into this lesson, so we decided that we would use this to set up our next lesson for the kids. So it would help them review from our last lesson and move on into using the equations to find combinations and permutations and stuff like that.
I think we also discussed, the way I had it worded is two of the other options listed. May have confused the students that, are these two of the options or is it just those four? So we would have put titles on the columns as well for the next one, just to be a little more clear.
And yes, this was your conclusion.
Yeah, this was my original conclusion. So again, I gave them the definitions, I gave them the formulas. But since we took that out, we're probably not going to put that in the conclusion anymore. I'm going to save that for next period.
So we changed our conclusion just to an exit slip where we get students to define what they think a combination and permutation is. That way we would understand for next class what we have to go over, what they learned from the lesson and how we can move forward.
And I had an extension talking about the R factorial, but because we didn't go into the equations and how to work it, we're going to scrap that and actually, just completely scrap it. Come back to that maybe in the next lesson as it develops, but not to rush that.
And that's not
And that's what we teach.